All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for our midweek live stream. My name is Brian McLogan, and if this is your first time on my channel or for the live stream, welcome. I am happy you are here. Basically, I have added these extra live streams throughout this year since majority of students around the country and around the world have been introduced to distance learning. And from the beginning of the year, I've been doing open Q&As on Sunday, which I am still doing. If you'd like to join me every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am going live on my YouTube channel and answering the questions that you guys have. But everything has been thrown off since the coronavirus COVID-19 has really come around, and all of our schedules, all of our classes, everything has really kind of taken a change. And so what I wanted to do was create a extra live stream where I could just kind of discuss some of those little bit changes and kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea of what I am doing inside of the classroom, because I still teach inside of the classroom, but it's no longer a classroom. It is now a digital classroom for my students. And I had this ambitious goal when we first started to do this every single day of the week. And what happened was I realized that, wow, I'm going live for all my classes, and then plus going live at night. And I was like, wow, that is just a lot. So you know what? Let me just go ahead and do this on Wednesdays. So this is my kind of day to little vent to you guys. I do take some questions a little bit on Discord, and if you guys have some questions in the chat, I'll be happy to address them. But I do not want to make this all mathy. I do just want to kind of address some like general questions and kind of see how you guys are doing. One, for students, how you're learning online, and as well as maybe teachers or parents, see how you guys are doing and see if I can maybe address any questions that way. Because a lot of the math stuff, I do on Sunday night, that is kind of like the geek out night where I'm like, hey, I am more than happy to do an hour worth of 45 minutes, maybe 30. But let's just do math problems. I'm like, that is what I am there for. But for tonight, I'm happy to do math problems if that's what we need to get to. And I know some of you guys will definitely have some math problems going on in your classes. But I also like to, kind of cover the general idea of this live stream, which was the pros and cons of distance learning. But before I get into that, I do see Amuya Richa Yuon. Nature is awesome. Thank you very much, Ayan. Hurista Kason, thank you guys for joining on. I really do appreciate you guys. I am doing very, very well. Been pretty busy. It was funny with me and my wife. We took a walk today, and I was like, man, today just feels like a Friday. I don't know why. It's not like the same day has been like going over and over. I'm like, today just feels like Friday. She's like, yeah, for me, it does as well. But I'm like, yeah, that's, really about it. Like tomorrow's going to be the same old, same old. There's really no difference between our weekends besides like me just checking in with my students, doing a little bit of lecture, helping them out. But yeah, besides that, it's like, every day is almost kind of like Groundhog Day, which I know a lot of you guys, especially parents, can definitely relate to a lot more maybe than the students. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think a lot of us are going through for this first time and really trying to figure out how to do this, the best. So those are some of the things I wanted to talk about as far as at least like the pros and cons that I have figured out from these first 2 weeks. And I can come to you from a parent, a teacher, as well as from a student perspective, even though I'm not a student taking an online class, but I can see some of the kind of pros and cons, at least from what I understand from my own students, or at least what I can view from their pros and cons. So what I like to do is kind of just start that conversation off. And then if you guys have any questions from there, please feel free to add them into the chat. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of go back into there and answer your kind of questions and build off the rest of the stream from there. And then obviously, guys, if you always have a math question, I am a math teacher, so I'm happy to kind of answer those math questions. Again, please stay away from the word problems. Nobody likes word problems, or at least nobody wants word problems on a live stream. So I'll just try to keep everything as simple as I possibly can. All right. So a couple of the pros that I've been talking about from distance learning, and these are some pros that I've known have been around for a very, very long time. One of the reasons why I really started creating videos was that, one, I wanted students to be able to, when they're doing distant learning, I did not want them to be constrained on time. And I think the biggest pro right now is students have that opportunity that for maybe, like, let's say you have two classes, right? One class you really, really understand, you really engage with, and the other class you're like really having a tough time. You just don't really understand the content material. You just need a little bit more time to digest it, right? Well, with distance learning, you have that opportunity to digest that content, right? And actually, I will take that back. I am taking a course online where I am digesting new content, okay? It's not math related, but it is a course that I'm taking that I'm trying to learn, right? And so it is really right. It is really nice to be able to digest this content kind of like on my own pace. Like sometimes I want to, you know, learn through everything like right in that day or right in that hour. Like I'm really hyper focused. And sometimes, I have my kids or things are going on and I just need to like slow down. And maybe like there's actually a video I'm right now, I'm like right in the middle of. And I started this morning at first thing in the morning and I wasn't able to finish it. And guess what? This whole day has really gotten away from me and I never got back to it. But it's really, really nice because tomorrow morning, that's the first thing I'm going to do is finish off the rest of that content. So I think that's the number one thing I would see with distance learning is students really can be able to spend their time on the content that they need and really kind of slow down when their time as well as their life, allows. The other thing that I think is really, really a pro for this distance learning is not really so much that the timing that they'd be able to get, but students also be able to, it was kind of like related. I didn't really mean to intermingle those, but really be able to kind of like do things at their own pace. Like if you don't want to learn in the morning, like for instance, I just think about this in like school. So like when you go into school, sometimes students, they come into my class and they're like, hey, you're in math class. You have to learn within this hour. Well, sometimes students, for whatever's going on in their life or whatever else, like that is not the good hour for them to be able to focus on things. So, therefore, but in the classroom, they would have to be able to learn that material. Whereas at least with the distance learning, they can be like, all right, let's go ahead and take a break and I'll learn this later. So really kind of the difference, what I was trying to really point at is like the first one is like, if you need to dissect things a little bit more, you can spend more time. Like you can rewatch videos, you can rewatch live streams or whatever else. Like that's the nice thing. You can get more developed in content online with distance learning, which is like the number one. And then number two, you can kind of learn on your own pace and your own scale. And especially with mathematics, what I found is a lot of students need more time than other students. Some students literally, they just need to look at my notes and they're like, okay, I understand it. And there's also students who are like, no, I literally need to walk like through each and every problem with you. And that's one thing I offer, at least in my class, is, after I've presented the information to them online in pre-recorded lessons, kind of like flip the classroom, then I kind of do my office hours online. And so it's kind of been one of those where they can ask questions as I've gone through the material. Now, we have actually not gotten all the way through to that because we're still kind of wrapping up our last quarter, but that is at least some of the things that I am going to be introducing for my students. So to kind of keep things simple, I think those are at least a couple of the pros from the kind of student perspective. I think from the teacher's perspective, once you have really completed a lesson, I think it is really easy to duplicate. Obviously, the office hours and the live stream is something that not a lot of teachers are really used to, as far as like creating live content or pre-recorded content. For myself, thankfully, I have been very blessed to have had the idea of like, hey, I'm just going to start recording everything that I do inside the classroom, as well as I will create live streams every week. That's something I did this year. obviously I had no idea this year I would need to be required to actually be going live like I'm doing right now, but I was going live every single week this year. But I think what's really nice about that is, students expect it, but also it's really easy to duplicate. Like every week I just go live and I answer my questions. Now the grand idea is, hey, I'm here for my students. Like, what questions do you have? What can I answer for you guys? Right. And I do that every single day for my students. I get on live. We, start at the beginning of the class period. What questions can I ask? They already have pre-recorded content that I do pre-record. But like, it's very easy to kind of duplicate, and also as far as like your timing as a teacher, this is saving me time from driving to my school, right? Having to get dressed up and do all that stuff. Like literally, I am a teacher that always, if you watch any of my videos, I always wear dress shirts. I always wear dress pants. And I have not done that once actually since I've been home for this. And not anything I've really even thought about actually until I just mentioned this for the live stream. But it's been one of those things where I was like, wow, like, when I'm in person, yeah, I want to obviously present myself as a professional, right? But when I'm on just the camera, it's like, hey, you're just getting a little, shoulder shot. Like, let's just kind of go. And I want to make this as impactful for you guys as the learning environment. I'm not really thinking of the, what I'm wearing as it really matters, as much to the students. And let's kind of think as far as what is the parents. I think also as far as the parents and really just kind of in general, I think really the biggest pro that I've really seen is really just the flexibility. Obviously I kind of already mentioned that, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the students and the teachers. But I think also with the parents as well, parents, we have a lot of things going on. I'm a parent myself and I don't have any students. My children are not old enough to be taking online courses. But I think just that opportunity of knowing like, hey, here's the content, you need to learn it. But as things are going on in our lives, where we're doing trips or whatever else, obviously not many trips right now, but it's available for you guys and you can be flexible. You can really highly focus and then you can actually dial back. So I think that's some of the benefits. Now, before I get into some of the questions, because I do see some of your guys' questions on there, let's kind of talk about the cons, the big cons. So let's go from the student cons. And again, I am, actually I will talk about, as a student, because like I said, I am taking an online course at the moment. And I think some of the cons is, definitely the interpersonal relationship. I mean, let's not get confused. Distance learning is not going to overtake education. People want to be with people. Okay. I mean, that is I think the number one thing that, people want to be in front of a teacher. People want to be in groups and learning with groups. They want to have a mentor. They want to, have those personal conversations with people that are off the cuff, not on, Google Hangouts, not on Zoom. And so, like, those are all great things. Like, they save time. They are efficient, but I do not feel that they are going to replicate for us all of our like conversations moving forward. So I think the number one thing is people want to be with people, and that is never going to go away. So, as far as a student, the course that I had, we were supposed to have like a conference where everybody's going to get together. Obviously that had to get canceled and I was super bummed, and I'm sure everybody else was, because really I just wanted to meet other people. Like when you talk to people online, especially people that you've never met, all you want to do is meet them, and it's like, it's such a grand experience where you're like, wow, we've had like such a connection online, and you just want to like, shake their hand, give them a hug. Like those are some really, really big, connections that you can have online, but when you have them in person, I think it's even more important. So I think that's like the number one issue. And I think also the number two issue, as far as at least from the student perspective, is, just not having that like instant gratification. I think when you work with a teacher, or at least when you work with somebody like one-on-one or like a private tutor, you really get that like hands-on experience. Well, if you're just like watching videos or if you're just like watching a live stream, even if you're able to like type in your questions, you just don't get that like instant gratification or that instant access to somebody's mind or somebody's questions. And I think those are very, very important, as far as like the learning experience, to be able to have those silly questions, have those questions instantly and be able to get them addressed, be like, oh, now I understand. And then you can like address, the rest of the lesson, be fine. But like sometimes some of those like baseline stuff, if you don't understand that, the rest of the lesson is much more difficult to understand. As far as some cons from the teacher perspective that I have seen is, I'll to be honest with you, I'll just say like the personal perspective. I think one of the things I miss the most from being a teacher is just not being able to see the students. There's a lot of things that I have a hard time enjoying about teaching. But I think that the one thing that I found that I missed the absolute most at this time was the students, and seeing those little avatars students on, showing up for my class, meant the world to me. It really did like make me happy to see those little faces, if they joined my live stream or not, I really didn't even care. Many of like half or less of them joined my live stream for me to like talk through things, but it didn't really matter. I was just happy to see them, showing up for the attendance portion of at least my course. And because I knew they were going to get the material. I mean, they could watch the replay, whatever they were doing. It didn't really matter to me. It was just happy to be able to see them. And I think that's the important thing. And as far as a teacher also, it's really helpful now because I know my students. I know how they behave. I know the questions. I know like their interactions. Like I have that connection with them. And I've never taught a full class distance learning. But I can only imagine that, I know through time, you obviously get to know people, especially as the more interactions you have. But I think one of the, definitely the cons that I've seen is like, I don't get those interactions with the students. Even if I was to have a video chat with each and every one of them or a phone call with each and every one of them, I would not have those little interactions that I get when I see them in the hallways of the school, or like pass them by in the cafeteria or the main office. Like it's those little interactions that, don't really mean something in like that particular moment, but in the grand scheme of things, it's those little interactions that just build that relationship with your students that, it's that building that relationship. And again, not only just being in your class, but I've had students that have had them for 3 years. I've had students that I've known from like 9th grade, and then you see them in like 12th grade, and you see them in graduation. And, it's like, it's just that, that building of the relationship that I don't think you can really recreate with distance learning. And I think that's also one of the things that, it's kind of like I used to coach sports too. You can't replicate that relationship a coach has with his players or a coach, with her players. And that's the same thing. I think with the teacher is the same way. I don't think the distance learning teacher, like, yes, you can have a great relationship with your students. But I don't think there's anything that matches what happens inside that classroom, because all those interactions add up and compound to a special relationship that I think can, transcend outside of the classroom to be able to really, motivating and helping a student, being the best version of themselves. And then as far as a parent, as far as the cons, I think just really, from what I've seen from the parents is really just kind of like, getting that schedule down. I mean, it's so easy when your student is, going to a classroom and like going to school, getting on the bus, to now where it's like, a lot of parents are dealing with, working and then having their students at home. I think really that just kind of that schedule, and really trying to develop that with a student where it's like, they've never had to do this before. It's kind of, crazy, like a new element for them as well. So, and, also like that distance learning, like making sure like I've already been dealing with some of my parents, in my classroom, or at least in my school, because in the classroom, like it's the routine. They kind of know what to expect already from me. But from this online, you know, there's a little bit of technology differences that they got to make sure, like, all right, you know, how are things going to be done now, and like turn things in, and like they're very on top of their students. So I think that, you know, just making sure you understand the technology, make sure you know, have everything you need to have for distance learning, but then also really advising to that schedule. All right. Very well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I talked my mind off for 23 minutes. I cannot believe I talked that much. You know, it's fun. It was funny. I was thinking before, I was like, man, I'm going to go live on Wednesday. I'm like, what should I really, you know, what would be a good live stream topic for me to go over? And I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm not sure exactly what I need to talk about. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we go over the pros and cons? I mean, because I've been going at this right now with my classes for 2 to 3 weeks. And then I just thought about this, and then holy crap, I've already been going on for 23 minutes. So let's get into some questions. And I know there's a whole bunch of them from you guys, and I do apologize. Well, I don't really apologize. I know you guys have always have a ton of questions for me that I'm never going to be able to answer. So I'll do my best, but polynomials algebra, I know you've asked this a couple times, so I will, and you're always on my stream, so I'll help you out with that. All right, so let's get to some of your stuff. So you want me to factor? Come on, you want me to factor? Seriously? 2y squared plus 12y minus 54. That's a 12y. All right, could you do a quick review on how to solve two equations by substitution or elimination? Rich, I could, but to kind of keep the problems like rather simple, it would be great if you could give me an example, because I could easily make those two problems up, but I'm not sure. I could also make them up to be very, very like difficult problems, and like dealing with a lot of like fractions. And I really don't want to like just make up two random problems at the moment for that. So if you have two questions in mind, I'll be happy to like tackle them for you. But I could also make two problems that look like they'd be easy, but end up being a little bit more complicated. Crunchy blend, my district for online learning has no tests, just assignments. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're all in this new time right now, as far as like how do we best, you know, get through this. You know, we ended up our third quarter. I gave tests before our spring break, and I had like, I don't know, 60% of my students took the test, and then another 40%, or actually probably 75 students took the test. Another 25% did not. And then, so I had to make the determination, like, what do I do with the 25%? Like half of the test is free response, and half of the test is multiple choice. And then also they have to take it at home. They couldn't come to school. So like, what do I do? And it was a tough choice. And what I just decided to do was say, all right, you know, I graded the ones that already took the test before school. And then I said, all right, if you didn't like your grade, you can retake it online. Because obviously the students that never took it, they have that opportunity to take it online. So I just made the test available online. They had to submit their work to me for the free response, and then the multiple choice I just made online. And yeah, so I just gave that opportunity to everybody, you know, and even so, if you didn't like your test grade, then you could redo it. And as far as for the fourth quarter that we have coming up, I just decided I do not want to grade. So at least just like having people email me stuff and like, it's like horrible. So I will just turn everything to a multiple choice grade, and and at least I'm not sure how everything's going to work on, but at least with the options I have now is that they can at least have to take it within a certain time period. So I don't know how you can reduce like, cheating from like people taking tests at home, which probably is like inevitable. You can't, but, hopefully you can just within kind of restrict people from, or at least restrict a little bit of the cheating. So how do you solve a number raised to a negative exponent? Well, I'm not sure how you solve. Do you simplify? Um, so I'm not sure, Nick, what you mean, because any number raised to a negative exponent is just 1 over that exponent. So you're not solving anything, but you can simplify by putting in the denominator. So if you have a problem that's related to that, we can talk about that. All right, Anonymous 101 says, distant learning is great because I'm not forced to stay in a room with kids yelling in my ear. Yeah, I think that's like a really big point. Like I think one of the big issues with public education, because I teach at a public school, is, students are like, oh, I don't like the kids in my class, or I don't like the teacher. And I'm not like a big proponent of, you don't like your teacher, just get out of the class, or you don't like the kids in your class, like get out of the class. But I do think there is a proponent. Like if people are in your class and they're like impacting your learning because they're not paying attention, they're distracting you, you should have that opportunity to join a class where you can learn, right? I think everybody should have the opportunity to learn to the best of their ability. Nobody should be restricted of learning because where they live, how much money they make, what country they're from, or blah, 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 blah. Everybody should have the opportunity to learn. So I think distance learning is one of those things where it's like, if your only teacher that's teaching, I don't know, algebra 1, like you only have one option, I think there should be another option, at least of distance learning. I don't think it should be an option just because, you just want to, you don't like your teacher and you just want to like, get a better grade. But I think there should be that option where it's like, if you don't understand or not learning from that teacher, like you should have that option to be able to learn from other teachers, right? And what is the problem with me saying, hey, here's my pre-calculus course. I want to offer this to anybody in the United States, right? And anybody, again, like, I mean, this kind of gets back and the circles back into like that standardization realm where it's like, I mean, technically, if we're all under like Common Core, or at least, like the common standards, if you're passing, pre-calculus or at least like AP calculus, there's certain items that you need to know. And does it really matter if you learn them from me, if you learn them from, my next door neighbor, if you learn them from a teacher in another state? No, it doesn't matter. But the main important thing is that you learn that material. And so, yeah, it's not that you don't learn it, but you get an A, but no, that you learn that material. So I think those are definitely some changes that I will expect seeing, that will maybe not seen, but we'll see evolving in the next couple of years. Well, thank you very much, Adeline. That is very, 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 very nice of you. If you guys have not noticed, Adeline is a great supporter. She is always commenting on my videos and letting you guys know where you guys can get the best resources. So I really, really do appreciate Adeline for the super chat, as well as for all the support that you have given me on my channel. So from me to you, thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Beast. Well, Mr. Beast. Thinking of super chats, I was like, wow, man, you know what? I need to get Mr. Beast to super chat me $1 million. That'd be the best super chat yet. But you haven't got to that level yet. But it's okay. I'll be waiting for that one day when I solve that math problem and we get to that $1 million super chat. I'm assuming it's coming down your way. But either way, I think you did ask a question though that you also had, I assume. Maybe didn't. I just see oh, you did super chat me. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Beast. I didn't see that. What is the value of x when adjacent is 12? Well, what is x? You said the angle is what, 45 degrees? Okay, but where's x? You got to tell me where x is, Mr. Beast. The left bottom angle is 45 degrees, but where's x? Yeah. I know he's not super chatted me the $1 million yet. So that's 45 degrees. The adjacent is 12. Where is x? Hypotenuse or opposite side? So please let me know. It is the hypotenuse. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. I'll get to that in a second. I'm just going to kind of add a couple more questions. Oh, you guys got me past my 30 minutes. I see your comment, Adeline. I see your comment. No, it's not the fake Mr. Beast. It's just the Mr. Beast with the space in between the Mr. and the Beast. That's it. Thank you so much. -6 to the -1st would equal no. Nick, -6 to the -1 equals 1 over -1 over 6. So the negative exponent just tells you that it's the reciprocal. That's it. How do you find the ratio of tangent variable? I'm not sure what that means. Aiden says, what grades do you teach? I teach pre-calculus right now, but I've taught everything in the high school level from algebra 1 to calculus, except for statistics. So don't ask me statistics questions, please. I've learned a lot from Calc 1, Calc 2 at 15. Should I continue with further self-studying or just continue with school curricula? You just learn, man. Like, learn for the sake of learning. I think the best time about being alive right now is nobody's telling you what to do. You know, nobody's telling you don't stop or like only learn this. And like, I would not follow school curricula at all. I would learn as much as you possibly can on your own. School is great because obviously that's, you know, you can still get some certifications and like degrees and blah, 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 but never stop the desire to learn. And, you know, one of the things I was thinking of, I'm like, hey, should I go back to school, you know, and earn my master's, my doctorate? Like, what else should I do? Or, you know, it's like, there's a lot of really great math channels on YouTube. Could I just continue watching YouTube? Maybe, maybe not. Obviously, I know I'm not going to get a degree, you know, a doctorate in mathematics by watching mathematics videos, but I can learn a lot, you know, about mathematics. I can further my education just by watching some math videos, as well as doing some math, right? But so, yeah, I would just say, just keep on learning, you know, and if you end up needing to, I definitely obviously continue with your school curriculum, but yeah, just still have that drive to keep on learning. All right. Koi says, is there any studying tips for online tests? This would be my first online test on surface area and volume, your videos. Good question. For online tips, for online video or for online tests, you know, I mean, I don't give my students online tests. The only online test they take is at the end of the year. But I guess I really just treat them as like a paper test, really what they are. You know, so I just advise my students to go by the same rules, like read through the question, make sure you know what the question is asking. Make sure you like write down your work, like make sense of it. If it's too difficult, skip it, come back to it later. And then always make sure once you've answered the question, make sure you like check your work, make sure it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, without like any more details, I would just say, you know, I think the main thing is doing the problems you know how to do first, and then coming back to the ones that are a little bit more difficult. And then also like making sure that you're just checking your answers. But then also another quick point I would say is also always, you know, when you read the question and then read the answers, right? Before you actually start thinking like, what do I need to do to solve the problem? Because I think as like math teachers and math students, we automatically like see a problem. We're like, oh, we got to go and use this formula. We got to go and do this and this and this. I'd say like read the problem and then read the answers and then say, oh, well, it can't be these two answers. Like these have, I don't know, square root of 3 in them. Like where I know square root of 3 is not going to be a part of the answer, you know, or something obvious sometimes is the case. Or you can maybe say, all right, well, these answers are separated by these two, you know, systems or whatever may be the case. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what to look for as you start solving the problem. So those would be a little bit of some advice I can hopefully give you that would help out. All right. Is pre-calc basically just algebra and trig? Brian asks. Yes, I mean, basically, I mean, the pre-calculus that, I've taught pre-calculus for just about 7 years, maybe a little bit more than 7 years now. And so we used to do systems of equations. So we did some sequences and series. When I took pre-calculus, we did a lot of matrices. So it really kind of depends on like what school you're at and, what the curriculum kind of is. Obviously, if you're in like the high school level or the college level and what you're actually going for. But I think like boiled down, like a couple of the main ideas or at least topics for pre-calculus is the idea of functions and trigonometry. Like when I think of like, people are like, oh, what is pre-calculus? I think of like functions and trigonometry. And obviously we can get a little bit more advances as well with that, by presenting you with a lot more of topics. But I think if you just want to boil it down, algebra, functions, and that trigonometry. All right. Julian, clean water. This is a math channel, not a socialism channel. Hi, Brian. How are you staying healthy during this crisis? I am trying to, Julian. I'm staying inside pretty well. The only time I've really gone out is to get groceries, and sometimes we'll go out and get food. But besides that, I have been staying true. And actually in Florida, we just got the kind of like stay at home order. So I am definitely now in lockdown, except for the essentials. Yeah, Christian, I mean, it's tough. I know. I mean, everybody's going through the same thing. I mean, a lot of people are not used to teaching online. A lot of people are not learning online. And I don't think there's a great answer. I don't think everybody is, I don't think the answer is online education. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that online education is going to solve and help us with, but it's not designed for everybody, for teachers as well as for students. So, it's just really kind of that, trying to do the best we can with that. I think the only benefit as a student, I would say for you, is there's so many options available for you, at least online. I mean, like obviously I have a ton of videos, but there's also like a ton of great content creators, teachers out there that are teaching their classes right now that you will probably find that you've never seen or never heard of. And they're posting their videos on YouTube and you're like, wow, you're a really, really good teacher, And I think that's the beautiful thing about online teaching is, all these teachers that are presenting their content, it's available online for free, and if you don't like my instruction, you don't like your teacher's instruction, you don't like somebody else's teacher's, instruction, all it takes is to find that one teacher who are like, I like how you teach. I like to follow you. And, I'm learning from you. And that's all it is. It's that student finding the right mentor. And I think that's where our model is broken, is based on what school you're at, and you have to be in that classroom. And even if you're disengaged and you don't want to be there, you have to be there. But I think with online learning, we have that opportunity now to branch out. And I do apologize. I know it's not a perfect system at the moment, but I think it is a powerful statement and powerful thing that we're going to keep on improving. Oh, well, that's very awesome, Morvis. I'm happy to be able to help you out. Trent says, no, I'm not able to go through it. I haven't caught Calc BC, and it's been way too long since I took it. So I apologize, though. I'm not going to be able to give you like a good explanation for the alternating series. Sorry about that. But I know I've seen your question keep on coming up. But yeah, it's not something I'll be able to give like a good solid explanation for. I know. Sorry. Like, there's a lot of questions that I just get where I'm just like, well, I've taught the AB curriculum for a couple of years, but even the AB curriculum, I just do not take a lot of questions on just because I haven't like taught it in a couple of years. And I want to make sure that whatever I'm explaining on a live stream, that I feel like uber confident in like my explanation. And if there's any kind of like hesitation where it's like, oh, let me just like think about this for a second, or let me just make sure like I confirm like a formula or, a definition. I just don't want to spend that time with the, going over that on the live stream. And I can definitely tell you for the BC content, since I haven't taught BC and it's been way too long since I took Calculus 2, that it's just not some material I'll be able to go over. Oh, okay. All right. All right, guys. So I am going to cover these. Let's see. I got 3 questions. Typically I only do these live streams for like 30 minutes, but I did kind of chat for 23 minutes. So let's go and get through these questions real quick. And then I got school tomorrow, so I gotta like wrap it up. First one. All right, so this is number 1. Oh no. First one is the factoring problem. So the first thing we're going to want to do here is factor out the 2. Always want to see what you can factor out. 6y minus, let's see, that'd be a 27. Now what I want to do is be able to determine what 2 numbers. There's a lot of different ways to do this. But in this case, I really just want to figure out what 2 numbers multiply to give me a 27, but add to give me a positive 6. Immediately, I think of 9 and 3 because I know 9 times 3 gives me 27 and 9 minus 3 gives me 6. But again, I need to determine which 2 numbers it's going to multiply to give me negative 27. So, oops. So that needs to be a y plus 9 and a y minus 3. The reason why it's a y plus 9 is because you want the larger of the 2 factors to be positive because your middle term is positive, right? Because 9 times 3 is negative 27. But 9 plus negative 3 is a positive 6. So you just got to think of like when you were to combine those 2 values, whatever the sign is of your middle term, that is what you want the sign to be of your larger of your 2 factors if you were to combine them. The next one is a solving for t. So the first thing you want to do is combine your like terms on the left and right side. There's really nothing you can do on the left side. But on the right-hand side, you're going to combine the t plus t, which will give you 2t. Then our main goal is really get the t's to the same side. Now here we have a dilemma. We can either get the t's to the left side and make them negative, or we can get the t's to the right side and make them positive. I always like to go by the idea of making them positive. So I'm going to add a 4t to both sides. You can disagree with me if you want to, but I have just found avoiding negative numbers and variables makes my life easier, except when I add an extra 1. So I have 16 equals 6t plus 6. And now I have a 2-step equation where I can just solve. So I'll subtract a 6 on both sides. We'll do this work over here because I have the space. So 10 equals 6t. Then I'll divide by 6. 10 over 3 can be divided by 2, which is a 5/3, equals t. And then you could obviously rearrange that as t equals 5/3. For the next one, question number 3, it says, I think the student was saying, what is the value of x? So again, we need to understand like what angles do we have? We have the adjacent side. This is the opposite side. That's the hypotenuse. So that's the adjacent, right? So here's your angle, 45 degrees. So if you have the adjacent and the hypotenuse, you got to think, well, which trigonometric function deals with the adjacent and the hypotenuse? Well, that is the cosine function. So we could say the cosine of 45 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Then you'd multiply by 12 on both sides. So you have 12 equals, 12 times the cosine of 45 degrees equals x. Now, the cosine of 45 degrees, you could use your calculator, or if you're a little bit familiar with a special right triangles or the unit circle, you could rewrite cosine of 45 degrees as the square root of 2 over 2 equals x, and therefore that can simplify to 6 times the square root of 2 equals x. And there you go. You could also, obviously, if you had a calculator, you could go ahead and find the decimal version for that. All right, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. I do apologize if you added a question or you add something at the end, but I am a little bit over my live streams. But if you are interested, I did check Discord before I went live tonight to see if there was any questions on there that I could answer. And I did address some questions immediately on the Discord. But again, just a reminder, guys, I will be going live on Sunday, 9 p.m. for my open Q&A, where I really am just going to address math questions. Not going to do that 23 minutes of just, random chit chat talking about distance learning. So I'm just going to get right into the math for you guys. So if you guys do have questions, I will make sure I make a post on my channel on Saturday. You can respond with your questions there, or you can go and put them on Discord. I don't say that I'm going to answer all of questions that come into me on Discord, but I do always try to check in a couple times a day just to be able to address some questions and help you guys out, because I do appreciate you guys that are joining the community and asking questions. I also really, really appreciate those of you that are joining the community and helping others with their mathematics. But anyways, guys, hope you guys have a great rest of your week as well as a weekend. I look forward to seeing you on the next live stream on Sunday as well as on Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining in, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.